Hi, I'm Laurie Dobson, and I'm doing this video from my family home in Kennebunkport. It's October 26, 2020. I'm not sure the way things are going and how it's dramatically changing so quickly that being able to express my opinions openly and freely as I'm doing right now will be something that will continue, or there may be some pressures brought to bear on people. If people are getting to the point where they're not allowed to have Thanksgiving and be with their families in the ways they've traditionally been able to get together, come together, remember who they are, remind themselves of their common humanity, learn to just settle differences for the sake of just sharing a meal and understanding our limits, but our possibilities, connecting together in love. If love can't be the operant mode this Thanksgiving, I'm thinking that things are changing sufficiently to the point where it's truly important for all of us that can speak to just stop hiding our real feelings, our true feelings. I think it's an artificial argument to say that we're being considerate of others by wearing masks, because in fact I don't think that it's creating liberty. I don't believe that it's patriotic to wear a mask. I don't think it's courteous to wear a mask, because I think that the collateral damage of wearing masks, which has resulted in people allowing those who have proposed wearing them for the brief time that they said that we would wear them, to the point where they're now saying 2022, to where they're telling people to wear them when they're alone in their homes, in their cars alone, and other places, has gotten to the point of such utter ludicrousness that it's clear that the goal is not safety. The goal is mass indoctrination. And anyone that doesn't really understand that doesn't understand history. People that can't understand that there's dualities at work in the world, and those with other purposes than the ones that they profess underneath, must understand, must see at least things such as Jeffrey Epstein. That's something that's been thoroughly excoriated, or Harvey Weinstein, things where behind the scenes where people pretend nothing's happening when everyone knows that it is. Finally, when there gets to be enough public opinion, the public coerces, we coerce each other to understand what's truly going on, and we finally act to do it. But the extent to which we respond to that is the extent to which we care about ourselves as sovereign individuals. They say the truly good quality of the quality of a horse that's been trained to take a rider is the degree to which they'll accept correction. In other words, does it take a slight amount of nudging to get a horse to change course, or does it take an absolute whipping? I mean, if you look at it as flogging, if it takes flogging, the idea is that it's not a good quality horse. It hasn't been well trained. Well, I think, and we all know, abusers are good to the point where those who control others can do things by just suggestion, because they have introduced such fear, at such a high rate of fear, that they can instill submissiveness with very little exertion of power. There are those, and I've known some people who are more interested in power and control than love, than fairness, than the ability to reason together and to come up with fairness as a solution to problems. There certainly is enough room in the world to disagree on fundamentals, and it's necessary to have disagreement. And what is the expression? Civilized people may disagree, and we should find areas where there's a there's a fly in the ointment, or there's a fault in an argument, or where the reasoning is not thought through, so that we can all together understand and hold to a better understanding of what precepts we want to hold in common. So the human race, the fundamental need for the human race, is to advance and to uplift our society in general, our civilized society, and that includes, a collection of other sovereign individuals or sovereign states, other nation states, and rather than a clash of civilizations, a dialogue of civilizations. These are things that I proposed support for when I ran for office for the first time as a state rep in Connecticut in 2004, excuse me. Was it? Yes, okay. And the pressure at the time, I was asked to run, and then I chose to run, but then I was pressed into, the attempt was to press me into supporting Joe Lieberman for president, who was a war hawk. And I said I was not able to do that, but that was the expectation. He'd be on my website, I would support him publicly, and I felt very upset about that. For many reasons, I was anti-war, strongly anti-war. I had children coming up, and the threat of the war in Iraq, and so many things happening, and my sister's children going into the military. So I found a way to support somebody who had the same, for president, that had the same beliefs that I did. And I looked for the beliefs, I looked past the personality, I looked past the public persona and the reputation that the person had. It was Lyndon LaRouche. And I looked at what the person was actually saying. And I found that popular opinion would have deterred me from believing anything he said, because his character was thoroughly assassinated. And Wesley Clark said it was one of the most egregious acts of political assassination that he'd ever seen. General Wesley Clark. But I supported him. I found when I did that people who had already supported me as a Democrat had freaked out and ran away. And not only ran away from supporting me, they made a point to show non-support, massive group non-support. And I thought, it was the first time I'd really ever encountered that level of, that extent of being thought of as a pariah. And then people said they were so disappointed because they thought I had real hope. I was a Democrat in an area that they really wanted a Democrat in controlled in southern Connecticut. And so anyway, I survived it, and I did very well. I did better than most people did. I got crossover votes, must have from Republicans as well, and they had people saying they thought I showed leadership because I was willing to think for myself and act for myself. I supported somebody that I felt I could vote for and support. It wasn't that I was running my own campaign, but I felt that I wanted to say that I was a candidate in the FDR tradition, Democrat. And I understood what that really meant, which was what I really felt that I was. I wasn't a centrist. I wasn't someone who, all the things that were happening at that point, that were pushing Democrats from a left position more towards a right position, and not supporting people in the ways that I felt that they needed to be supported, from the government protecting the disadvantaged and those economically disadvantaged, disempowered, and to make it more of a level playing field, making an opportunity and more of a meritocracy, making it more available to all. Otherwise, it's just it's a false kind of a government. If it's pretending to be there for people and truly not, then it's a cynical exercise and sophistry. And so I just felt the need to do that, to know myself going into a campaign. And I ended up understanding I wasn't going to die. I was going to be who I was, and I was going to be more in touch with my principles. So I've carried that with me since then. In many ways, since I've run for office several times since then, and I've tried to support people I felt had the best shot at getting elected that could do the most good for the most amount of people. I've been very upset in this campaign season because I've not understood at all who I should vote for, who I could say was the to buy into the lesser evil concept. It, to me, feels evil because it could potentially create the conditions for a worsened reaction to whoever's in this time to the next one who's worse than who we have now. I just don't think, I think we're operating in a failed state. I think that our country has been divided. We've tried not to be, but but I think that we have become rather cleaved sufficiently to the point where people are operating in fear, in panic mode. And they've capitalized on a way to do that to us. I think, if this didn't work with the way that the current situation is right before the 2020 election, mask wearing, mask mandatory, compulsory vaccinations on the horizon, trying to get us to accept these impossible ideas, treating us like cattle, treating us like, the herd about to be culled, just like Hitler did with people, getting doctors, reputable doctors to decide who lives and dies. That was done in the camps. Once we get into those kind of conditions, it's and we're getting there quickly. All veils will be lifted and all niceties removed, and we'll just be in a compulsory situation, and then it'll be right down to individual courage and fortitude. And those who've been practicing it will know what to do. They'll know to resist, and those who have not understood that they will survive resisting will submit, and then not only submit but pressure others to do so. And you see it in people. You see it now in people. I live on an island. I was on going from our island to the mainland, and they encourage people to wear masks if you can't do social distancing, etc. But in the back of the boat, there were quite a few people. At one time, I didn't have any issue with it, but one time when I was getting onto the boat, there was just one other person in the back, and someone yelled at me from the float, "Where's your mask?" And I said, "It's outside. I'll practice social distancing." I had to explain myself to this person. I didn't have to, but I did. But I didn't put it on. I didn't think it was right. The same person I just saw on an island the other day in a group of about 11 people in a room where people were sitting down and eating popcorn, watching a movie, and 11 people in a small room, and the person sat down in front of me and took their mask off. So that makes no sense, scientifically speaking, medically speaking. I'm an EMT. How can it possibly be safe to sit down in such a group of people? How can that be so-called safe without a mask when it's unsafe in the back of a boat, a big boat, outside, with just one other person across from me at a distance? So there are things like that are happening where it's not logical, it's not rational, it's fear and bullying, and the mask has come to symbolize for me a symbol of oppression. I resist it, here it is. I have to have it at the ready because of the fear level of other people, but I want to start working on, in my life, what FDR said: the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, and what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the other day in an incredible speech that anyone and everyone should hear. It's a statement of freedom of humanity. I think it's a manifesto to the rights of people everywhere. It's incredible. It's phenomenal. It's profound, and it does him justice, and his family's lineage. And I believe that there will be resistance, but it has to become more open, more overt, more apparent, more true, more real. And we have to support each other in breaking out of this false dichotomy, false equivalencies, false divisions, false everything. preposterous notions that, like Gavin Newsom for the Thanksgiving, it has to be laughable. I mean, it is laughable, but it has to be, in my view, it has to be vociferously denounced. All falsehood should be denounced. And that was my operating modus operandi in politics. It still is. I like to be known as a denouncer of falsehoods and loving humankind, and that's who I am. And I urge you all to join me in that stand for myself, for others, for my family, for the well-being of our world. I believe we can crawl out of this hole, but it's got all the potential to become very deep. I have some work to do because I know some people who are in the they're deep in this chain of abuse that's starting up with these lies that are going to become institutionalized. I have power in my ability to resist. It may cost me some, it may threaten my livelihood to a degree, but I must do what I must do and to live with myself. And I think we all have to have that inner code active and working for us going forward. I think we need to think about the gods of ancient Greece, for example. They each one had a different helpfulness at different times when they were needed. You know, they're all human, but they all were there. I think, Athena, the goddess of war, I think she had to show people that there was a time for fighting and for what you are fighting for, and to be someone who will be willing to fight. And I think I must, I'd love to think of myself as Aphrodite, the goddess of love, or this or that. I mean, there's all kinds of different roles you have to play in life at different times that are appropriate, goddess of wisdom, goddess of love, goddess of this, that, and the other thing, gods of however. But you must embrace the powers, the personal gods, the personal help, the alliances of others who are willing to stand forth and fight with you, alliances of truth. I think that's the nobility. That's the true noble cause right now. I think it's a sacred duty. I'm so glad that others have led the way, and I know of many. So if anyone ever wants to talk to me about places to go to get fortified in this kind of an effort, I think it's time now to stand up and be counted. It doesn't look easy to do that kind of a thing, but I don't know what I'd be living for otherwise, just to be safe. That's not the country I grew up in. That's not the country I understand. My dad was willing to lay it on the line to protect us and his family the best way he saw, and I have to do the same. I think everybody does. I urge you to as well, and I hope you do so. And take care. All right, thank you.